to another brand new episode of Dingers and Stingers, the podcast that might have some eyes on their phones this episode. So, give us a little space because Josh Naylor just got traded, and so we don't even know how quickly these dominoes are going to fall as of right now. So, I'm Dallas, that's Matt, and that's Drew. And on today's MLB show, we are going to talk about some players who might not be doing so great this year. We're going to talk about what we think about their performances and what it might indicate for their future. A little later, we are going to get to our predictions from last week, what happened. We'll talk about more trade deadline stuff before the deadline actually happens next week. But before we get to all that, I do want to start with the trade that went down about 30 minutes ago, right before we got on to record. The Seattle Mariners acquired Josh Naylor from the Arizona Diamondbacks. The return was not, earth-shattering. It was a very reasonable deal for the Mariners to make, and they made it. So the first major move of the trade deadline season has taken place, and I want to get your guys' thoughts right off the rip. So what do you think about this trade? How does it impact how you see the trade deadline going, if it does at all? What do we have as far as thoughts go regarding this?
Yeah,
I think it's go for it.
Wait, yeah, sorry, I was going to say, but I'll be quick. I just feel like on the surface, it feels like a pretty big underpay, in my opinion. I feel like Josh Naylor is a really good player. Arguably, you could say top of his position for this trade deadline. And it just felt like the Mariners are seen, they have one of the best farm systems in MLB, and these were not even anywhere close to being like some of their better guys. So they were giving up back of the farm type of players. Because they only gave up two dudes, and they were able to get Josh Naylor, who maybe I overappreciate Josh Naylor, but I feel like he's awesome. So, I don't know. I feel like this is a pretty crazy return, and I understand it's probably just a half-season rental, but at the same time, it's you just got a really great player for a very big position of need for next to nothing. So, obviously we don't know what those guys will turn into, but as of right now, it feels like next to nothing.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by the return. I thought it was a little lower than what I would have expected, especially we talked about the Diamondbacks being a team that really has a lot of power this trade deadline, as having multiple guys who are going to be sought after, who are on expiring contracts. Josh Naylor's one of them. I do think it's important to note, and I was listening to the Cespedes Family Barbecue podcast today. They went over every team, what they kind of think going into the trade deadline. And one thing they mentioned overall is every year we're surprised by how small the return is for rental players and how big the return is for guys who have years of control left. And so I think that's really the game MLB GMs, presidents of baseball operations, whatever you want to call them, that they play these days, that their special little machines tell them. Years are the most important thing. And it's the reason why Rafael Devers, the return for him wasn't crazy big. It was, yes, there's a lot of years left, but they took on the entire contract. So it's money and years, and it's all this formula, and it's all about getting value. And unfortunately, it's why you don't see those jaw-dropping trades so frequently anymore. We used to have much crazier trade deadlines, it felt like. And I don't mean any disrespect to Josh Naylor, but he's not a superstar in this league. He's a really solid first baseman. He's a good hitter. Mariners need that. They needed production from first base. I think it's a great fit for them. A great way to kind of kick off the trade deadline season with a week to go. And I'm going to take a little victory lap here. Last week, it was what I predicted the Mariners. A guy I could predict the Mariners to get was Josh Naylor. And then to get even further, I said the first dominoes of the trade deadline would involve the Mariners. So double little victory lap for me there. But I love the move for the Mariners. We'll see how it works out for the Diamondbacks. I expect them to get a lot more from some of their other guys because pitching will be much more sought after. Eugenio Suarez, I believe, will be the prize hitter of the trade deadline. So I could definitely see a bidding war going on for him. And who knows, maybe the Mariners will hop back in. They've traded with the Diamondbacks a lot over the years. It's not unheard of to have two deals with the same team in the same deadline. So Mariners are a team that could get back in that. The Yankees will be in on Suarez. The Brewers could be in on Suarez. The Tigers. There's going to be a lot of attention paid to the Diamondbacks, and now they're signaling, indeed, we will be selling. So I'm excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, it was certainly, we talked about it on last week's episode, but it was certainly one of the, it was the indicator of an exciting deadline or a meh deadline was what the Diamondbacks were going to do. And so far, we are trending toward perhaps an exciting deadline. So the moves will continue to come. Like I said, we're going to keep our eye on the noties over the course of this episode. These guys have their instructions to just shout it out. If something happens, and we'll dive in. We're not, our segment we have planned for today is good, but it can be flexible. So speaking of, let's get to it. So we wanted to talk about some players. We like to come up with ways where we can, spread the love across the league. We want to make sure we don't focus in on one team or a couple teams. It can be really easy to do that, but we want to make sure we talk about as many teams as possible on our show. And so the way we came up with how to do that today is we're going to do a little segment, and it is simply titled, "Is He Cooked?" And if you are not familiar with the vernacular, if you will, we are asking a question. When we say "is he cooked," we mean, is he donezo? Is he finished? Should he hang it up? Is it over? Have we seen the best of this person? This is another way to say all of those things. So that's the conversation we're going to be having around these players. What's going to happen is I'm going to name some players, and the two of you are going to tell me what you think. I want to hear both your thoughts so that we can talk. If we disagree, we can hear from both of you. So that is how this segment is going to go. So to start, we will begin with a pitcher. And the pitcher I want to name first is Justin Verlander. So answer me this. Is Justin Verlander cooked?
I think, if you're being honest, yeah. I think the answer is yes. It's crazy to say it about someone who's such a legend like that, but at the same time, it happens to everybody. At some point, everybody starts to be cooked. So, yeah, I absolutely believe Verlander's cooked. At this point, I respect him trying to go for how many wins does he go for? Was it 300, something like that?
That's the it's in my
dream.
notes. Yeah. I think at this point it's very unlikely, but
he got his first one of the season, so
right.
We'll give him that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's cooked, and he's 42 years old, so it's great career and it's a good sign that you're finally being asked this when you're 42. He's going to be the oldest guy we asked this about on today's list. He is, and it's not necessarily shocking. He's, like I said, he's 42 years old. It's not an age many professional athletes get to continue playing at. He has had a bad year, pretty much all around. Famously was not getting any wins. I know the pitcher win is a flawed statistic, but still, you want to see that. He's talked about in the past wanting to pitch till he's 45, wanting to reach that 300 win threshold. I believe that is not going to happen now. Let me see where he's at. He's somewhere in the 260 range, I believe. Yikes. So, 263, which he's 37 short. And he had this abysmal start to his age 42 season. I just don't see it happening. Take nothing away from him. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer as soon as he is eligible. But this version of Justin Verlander, I do not have much faith in, and neither should the Giants.
But do we think if he moved to the bullpen, he could sneak out some of those cheesy wins? Just kind of
tough to rely on that, but
pad the stats a bit though.
Yeah, I don't know if I see 37 of those cheesy wins making their way to him, but
he only gets brought in when they're down one run.
Or tied, yeah.
Or tied. Let me ask you this, and then we'll move on to our next player. Is Verlander, though, he wants to play to 45, that'd be 3 more seasons. Is he the kind of guy that can just continue to collect anywhere between 8 and 10 million from somebody for the next 3 years? Do you see that as being possible? Like because he could retire, but he could be one of those guys that off his name and his career could just keep collecting little 1 year contracts here and there and try to keep going.
I think 8 to 10 million might be a big ask. It's all up to him. I think if he's willing to play for like, pretty minimal pay as far as Major League Baseball goes, I think there will be teams that will take a chance on him. He gives innings, which is valuable to a team in the sense that that's not innings that relievers have to take up and wear and tear on their arms. Um, and it's not like I'm looking at his numbers and he's the worst pitcher in all of Major League Baseball by any means, but I don't think a competitive team would sign him to be on their roster. And if he only cares about stat padding at this point, yeah, why not? Sign a 1 year deal for the next 3 years with teams that are willing to have him eat innings for them. Um, but I think I could see the writing being on the wall for him and him, looking at his numbers, looking at his diminished stuff, and just being like, you know what, 45 would have been nice, but I think this is all I've got. And respect either way. He won a Cy Young as recently as 2022, which seems crazy, but I just don't think we're getting that version of him ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we're in agreement there. So let's move on to our next player. And you might sense a trend here. We're easing our way in. Perhaps these are easier answers than they will be later. But we're going to start with a couple of big names. And the next player I want to talk about is Mookie Betts, having a down year, certainly by his own standards. And so my question to you is Mookie Betts cooked?
I mean, I can go first.
Yeah,
My answer is going to be no. Obviously, he is having a down year by Mookie Betts standards, and by all standards, really. Like his OPS is pretty low. But I've been saying this for a while. Like, props to a dude for being willing to be flexible and play where a team needs him. But like, ever since the Dodgers have gotten him, they had his first few seasons at right field, and then it feels like they've just been like, well, he can be the fix-it ticket for literally any problem we have on our roster, and it's like he's awesome, but also like let the man play where he's comfortable. And like, I know batting and defense aren't the same thing, but it definitely impacts your mental as a athlete when you kind of are just not ever being able to be comfortable. Like with when he's in right field, I doubt he would have to be thinking about the game. But with shortstop, he may be so hyper fixated on not committing the error, on making sure he's in the right position, making the right plays, et cetera, that it's taking away from his ability to think about his at bats and focus on his at bats. And I don't think he's cooked. I think that this could be a trend for him, all things considered. I also think that he absolutely could bounce back. I think he's still got it.
Yeah, I agree. He's not cooked. I don't know if we're ever going to see, MVP frontrunner Mookie Betts again.
Sure.
But um, but I don't think he's going to be this bad for the remainder of his career. I agree. Even though he's playing a perfectly decent shortstop, it's not like he's screwing up defensively. I agree that it takes much more preparation and takes more of the mental energy than right field would take for him. And he was declining as a defensive right fielder anyway. So like, I don't know, I would keep him in right, but we'll see what the Dodgers do with him. I don't know what the deal is here, but I saw something that he might not travel with the team to Boston. They're coming to play the Red Sox this weekend because he's got some personal things going on. I don't want to speculate as to what that might be, but anything that would take you away from the team physically also must be taking away something mentally, I'm sure, that weighs on him, whatever that is. And I think, he's on the wrong side of 30, and this is just kind of where guys start declining. But I think the biggest red flag to me is his bat speed. When you go to Baseball Savant, they haven't been tracking bat speed except for the last 3 seasons is when they started doing it, and it's decreased the last 3 years, and so have his other numbers that kind of you would think go along with that. So he's squaring up the ball still at an elite level, which means basically he's getting as good of contact as he could on a given pitch. But because his bat speed is so low, his best contact is not going to be as good as other guys' best contact. So that's going to be a problem. He still doesn't strike out very much. He still doesn't swing and miss that much or chase. So there's still value to having Mookie Betts on your team. And I just would be surprised if he's this bad for the rest of his career. I think he's got a couple more years in him where he can be an above average to even good offensive player. But I do think the best years of Mookie Betts' career are behind him, and that's perfectly normal at this age. He's 32, and even more important than that, maybe, it's his 11th season in Major League Baseball. So a lot of mileage on those legs, on that arm, and whatever personal thing is going on with him, I hope all is well, and I hope it works out. But yeah, it's been a bad year for him.
All right, so we agree there, but let's maybe move into a little bit murkier waters here. Let's talk about our next player who resides in Atlanta, and that is Michael Harris. So tell me, boys, is Michael Harris cooked?
I think Michael Harris might be cooked. Now, he is only 24, which if you're a team, if you're the Braves, or if you're a team maybe in the offseason that wants to, pick up a change of scenery type of guy, I could see you being optimistic about Michael Harris because he's still young, because we saw that upside his rookie year when he won Rookie of the Year. He has been a great player in the past, and he is still a really good defender. And in center field, that is a valuable position. You can still make a living as a good defending, light hitting center fielder. We've seen it before. However, what the Braves counted on and what the Braves need, he is not giving them. He has been dreadful with the bat. I don't know. He's in the first percentile for batting run value on Baseball Savant, which I believe means he's like the bottom 1% of all hitters overall. So that is not good. And it's gone down every year of his career. So it's not like one bad year. It's really good rookie year, pretty good sophomore year, not great last year, and then straight up bad this year. And that's just not a trend you want to see from a guy who you kind of built a lot of the hopes of this team around. So I'm going to say yes, he's cooked. I don't know if he's ever going to be a valuable hitter in this league again. But I also wouldn't be shocked if a team, or even if the Braves want to tweak a couple things. But if he goes to a new team a couple more times throughout his career, just kind of hoping to find that lightning strike.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think in my head, it's so hard for me to say someone's cooked or washed so early into their career. Like, he is 24 years old, and there are guys who have had their breakout seasons way later than that, and he already had a breakout season. And so it's like, could he be experiencing a slump? Could he just there's so many things where I'm like, I don't know if I can fully write him off as yeah, this dude's cooked, that he's done. And like you said, I mean, defensively he can still make a living because he is a good outfielder, but I don't know, he showed too much potential. And I feel like in baseball, it's hard to have a fluke full season. Personally, I feel like that's tough, just because of how many at-bats there are, how big the season is. It's different than in football, where you could have 4 or 5 weeks where you explode and it looks like a great season. In baseball, you got to play 160 games. You got to play a lot. And so I still believe in the talent that's there. Maybe he's just not vibing with the current coaching staff of the Braves, or maybe someone tweaked something they shouldn't have. I don't know. I don't know enough about him and his coaching staff, but I couldn't write him off yet.
All right. So let's move on to our next player. we are going to talk about Brenton Doyle. Over in Colorado, tell me, is Brenton Doyle cooked?
This one, I'll go back a little bit on what I just said because he is still young. But the one thing I'm gonna say is it's different when you play in such an extreme like Colorado, where and off the top of my head, I don't have like his home and away splits, but he's been disappointing this season. And if you're disappointing as a hitter in Colorado, you're not likely to get better elsewhere. And I think that's pretty much been like, this is coming from someone who spent a few years in the basement, that is being a Rockies fan. Players don't usually get better when they leave us. So, yeah, I don't think that, I don't know. I would be quite worried if I was a Rockies fan. I would be quite worried if I was a Brenton Doyle fan. It's concerning if you can't perform in Colorado as a hitter.
Yeah. I think not only is he cooked, I don't know if he was ever like not cooked per se. He's a good defender who in the past has been an amazing defender. So similar to Michael Harris, he can make a living doing that as a center fielder. He is 3 years older than Michael Harris, so he's young, but like by baseball standards, things move quick. So he's 27. He last year, so this is only his third major league season. Last year was kind of considered his breakout year, but because he plays in Colorado, his decent counting stats and stuff only amounted to a 10, where is it? 103 OPS plus. So only 3% better than league average when you adjust for park factors. And a couple Gold Gloves is great. He had a 4 WAR season last year, and I think a lot of that came from defense because his hitting was decent, but it wasn't outstanding. And then this year, his hitting's just been bad. His OPS plus now is a 60. His rookie year, it was a 53. So it seems like it's really been 2 seasons of kind of this and 1 season where he was a pretty decent player. But also, his defense is not, it's still good, but it's no longer great. And so his WAR right now, his baseball reference WAR for this season is negative 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the negatives at all is not good. If you accrue enough to get like into the digits of negatives, like that's really bad. And so, yeah, I think maybe we got a little too excited about an okay year last year on Brenton Doyle, and I say we, I mean like the baseball world. Might have thought a breakout was coming. Every now and again, there's an illusion like this where it's one anomaly year, and I kind of think that might be the case. Again, he's a good enough defender. The Rockies are bad enough that he should get some runway there. But yeah, I fear as a hitter he will never really be much of anything.
All right, so that's the verdict on Brenton Doyle. Now let's go to another young player over in New York. This might be the equivalent of like asking, like, if we're going to use the cooked sort of metaphor here, if you make like ahi tuna steaks, you're supposed to get it like ripping hot and then just put it on there for like a minute and then it's done. So this might be the equivalent of that if we make the decision that he is, because he really just got here by MLB standards. But let's talk about Anthony Volpe, who is having a really, really bad year at a really, really bad time. He was supposed to be a contributor this year for a Yankee team that was looking to get back to the World Series. It was supposed to be time to take that next step, and if anything, he's taken a step backward. So is Anthony Volpe cooked?
He might not, to keep with the cooking analogy, he might not only be cooked, I think he might be pressure cooked. I think he's got the problem with him, and we've seen it happen with countless players.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a big media market like New York. It's a tough fan base. They ride you. He was given so much expectation that he didn't need to be given, really. He was a touted prospect, and that's all fine and good. But they kind of crowned him like he's the next Derek Jeter.
Yep.
He grew up a Yankees fan. The Yankees, there was a bunch of free agent shortstops over the last few years, the Yankees signed 0 of them because they believed so much in Anthony Volpe. And I just think that wasn't necessary. And it's clear like there's something going on with him this year. I mean, he's never been a great hitter, but he was always a pretty good fielder. And honestly, his offensive numbers, they're down from last year, but it's not like totally way worse than last year. And he actually is slugging more. He's hitting for more power, which I think is something they wanted to focus on with him. But he just is the king of errors right now and mental mistakes, and um, his fielding outs above average is -4. This is a guy who won a Gold Glove his rookie year. Um, it's just it's just ugly for Anthony Volpe, and I feel bad for him in some ways because Yankees fans, Red Sox fans, Mets fans, Phillies fans, these are like the types of fans that like for better or for worse, they don't let you be a bad player without hearing about it.
Yeah.
And he plays such an important position on such an important team. He just can't escape the scrutiny in the media. And to me, I think he is cooked. I think this is not a player that you can count on to be a really good major league player. However, I'm going to give the caveat that I think he's a change of scenery candidate, where if he went somewhere where the pressure wasn't as high, where he could just play baseball and kind of be free and loose with it, he might succeed. But I feel like I just haven't seen anything, and his under the hood numbers don't really indicate that a breakout is coming. I think this just might be who he is as long as he's in New York.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when you guys are talking Anthony Volpe was like the expectations were too high too quickly. Like calling him Derek Jeter, like one of the biggest legends of New York baseball, like that's so unfair. Like that, I mean, I remember similarly one of my friends who's an Angels fan when Kyron Paris went on that like 2 week stint of being like a star, and he was like the next Mike Trout, and I was like, don't do that. Like, don't do that to him. That's not fair to call him that. Like, he hit like a few home runs over a couple weeks, and I think it's the same thing with
It's
Volpe.
well documented, by the way. That was not me. You heard me talk about
Not,
Harris on
not,
this show.
not Dallas,
You
not
heard
Dallas.
me admonish that kind of talk on this show. So it was not me, just so everyone knows. That was not a sly way to get at me. I did not say that.
No, I would tell you if it was Dallas saying some dumb shit. But like with Anthony Volpe, it's too much expectation, too much pressure, and I'm like, I totally agree with you, Drew. I don't know as much that I say he's like fully cooked and this is just who he is, but like I could see him having some like resurgent years playing for just a small market team, and not that he's going to be some all-star, not that he's going to be, this like earth-shattering player, but like he might just be a good shortstop in the league. And that's a totally fine thing to be. It's just like a good player. Um, and there's plenty of places he could do that. I mean, you imagine one day he ends up on somewhere like the Rays, or he ends up on somewhere like Minnesota. Like, I think he would just have good seasons. And
Hmm.
it wouldn't necessarily be anything but that. And it doesn't, yeah. So I
I
guess
could
the
see
long
him
answer
having,
is,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I guess the long answer is I don't think he's cooked. I just think he's never going to be a good Yankee.
Yeah. I like someone like Dansby Swanson, I think is a good example. I know he has a lot of name recognition, but basically, besides one really good year, he's been a really good defender who's just like, that's important at the shortstop position. So he can be like an average bat, a good defender, and be a fan favorite. And it seemed like maybe that's where it was trending the last couple of years, but yeah, this year has just been such a step backwards where
Yeah.
you saw other guys like it. This is an unfair comparison, but they were prospects at the same position at the same time. Bobby Witt Jr. has just become a superstar, and I think Yankees fans fully expected that trajectory from Anthony Volpe, and fair or not, he is not meeting those, and the fans are not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So let's hop back to the Giants for our next player. And speaking of shortstops, maybe this is one of those that the Yankees maybe are kind of glad they avoided, at least giving big money to at this point. Anthony Volpe is not, as good as this player, to be sure, even though this player is having a down year. But at least they're not paying Anthony Volpe a bunch of money like the Giants are paying Willy Adames. So let's talk about Willy Adames and answer the question: is he cooked?
I think to be honest, yeah, I do. At least like what he was known for. He was known for like his bat. At least that's what I knew him for. I don't think he's ever going to get back to being a dude who can hit, 30 plus home runs a year. I don't think he's going to do that in San Francisco. Um, he might again kind of have some positive regression towards what he was, but even then, like I don't think the peak of Willy Adames will ever be reached again in San Francisco. So I'm gonna go with cooked, or at least cooking, maybe.
On the stove.
He's on the stove. It's heating up.
That'll work.
Yeah, this is going to be the first one I think where I disagree with Matt. I think obviously this is not what Giants fans wanted when they signed him. This is not what they expected, but I do think anyone who really pays attention knew that his offensive numbers would not be the same in San Francisco as they could be in Milwaukee. It's just it's a much harder place to hit. Um, Especially power. He does have 15 home runs this year, so that pace, I don't know where that's somewhere in the mid 20s, I would say, by the end of the year. That's nothing to scoff at. He hit 32 last year, but he hit 24 the year before. He's kind of on a every other year uh, trajectory, which is, we've seen players do that. I don't know what goes into that. The under the hood numbers, there are some that are ugly, but there are some that still seem pretty good. He's still a decent defender. First year on a new team, tougher place to play. He's only 29 years old. Like, I agree that probably his best seasons happened with Milwaukee, and that's why he got paid now. But I still think the Giants can expect a productive player for the next few years, even if after that the contract gets a little uglier. I don't think this version of Willy Adames, a 229 batting average, a 718 OPS, is what they will. I don't think that'll be the norm for the next couple of years.
All right, so a little bit of a opposite answers there, but good thoughts all around. Okay, so this will be our second to last player. So coming up on the end of things here, we are going to talk about the outfielder from Texas, Adolis Garcia, someone who I personally really liked a couple of years ago. I really liked watching him play. It was really fun. But since that World Series season that they played, he has been, and even a little bit maybe, if my memory serves me okay, like even toward the end of that season, and then on through the last two, including this one, on the downward trend a little bit. It has continued this year. So Adolis Garcia, is he cooked?
I think he is, and I think that World Series year kind of fooled a lot of people into thinking he was like a star player, and I just don't think that's really the case. It's far and away his highest OPS in a season. It was his highest OPS plus in a season, his highest on base, his highest slugging. Like, and he was a Gold Glove winner that year, an All-Star, got 14th place in MVP voting, which, it's pretty low, but like getting MVP votes it's not easy
Means
to
something.
do. Yeah. He was really bad last year, and he's not looking good this year. I just kind of think he's the player that he is someone who can hit the ball hard, throw the ball hard. He's a pretty good defender. I kind of said that about a lot of these guys, but like he's going to strike out a ton. He's not going to walk a lot. Um, when he finds his pitch, he can hit it a mile, but that's kind of what he does. He doesn't have a ton of versatility at the plate. He's already 32, so he kind of came up later than a lot of guys. I don't think the Rangers can expect a lot of all-star seasons from him going forward, if any. Um, I think this is kind of who he is, and that's fine as a major league player, but it's not really fine as a expected heart of the order bat for a contending team. And it's one of the reasons why the Rangers are kind of in a you know outside looking in position when it comes to the wild card picture.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think what you said is exactly how I feel about honestly a lot of the guys on Texas. I think the World Series fooled a lot of people into thinking that this was going to be like a juggernaut team. Um, and it really hasn't turned out that way. Like obviously Corey Seager's legit. They have good pitching right now. That wasn't the case early on, but right now it's looking good. But like a lot of these guys who were like seen as like core pieces of that World Series team haven't really been good since. Um, and I see the jokes on like Twitter and stuff about like, oh, we got to investigate that 2013 season and like all that because like you look at the numbers of these players before and after 2023, and it's a pretty like dramatic fall off for a lot of them. So I would agree. I think I wouldn't if I was betting on him, I wouldn't be. Or I'd be betting against him, I should say, because I just don't think we're gonna. I don't think we're ever gonna see what we did. Like that's kind of how I'm basing my cooked is like, will they ever resurge to like what they were or could be? And like with him, I think his best is behind him.
All right, then. Well, let's round out this segment with one more player who we might hear about shortly, trade deadline wise, and but whose presence in this list is pretty well earned so far this year, and that is the last guy over in St. Louis, Nolan Arenado, another shortstop, or third baseman. And so is Nolan Arenado cooked?
Matt, I'll let you start since
Yeah.
this is your boy.
This is my boy. Guys, this is why I was a Colorado fan back in the day. Um, yeah, I think he is. I think age caught up to him. He doesn't have the pop that he needs. He was never the best, like, average guy. He'd have a good average, but I think a lot of that was inflated because of Colorado. But really, we were just hoping that his, like, power would stay, and that's kind of gone by the wayside. It's not bad, but it's not what he needs it to be a productive player at this point. He's slowed down a lot. It's it's tough. I mean, he's still obviously like a solid defensive third baseman, and I think that can continue if he ever wanted to switch over to maybe like first base. I think he could salvage a few more productive defensive years over there. Like, there's things that he can do that kind of can extend it. But again, are we talking about a guy that's ever going to be a MVP frontrunner again? No, no. Like, I don't think those are the days ahead of him. So I think he could be a solid player for a team in the right spot, but I think he's sadly over the hill.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. This is his third straight year where the numbers across the board have declined.
Yeah.
He's still a decent defender, but he's no longer close to the elite best third baseman in baseball that he used to be. Um, and I mean, we're talking about a guy who was MVP candidate year in and year out. I think he has a strong argument for the Hall of Fame.
Won 6 trillion
2022,
Gold Gloves.
yeah, he won his first 10 years in the league. He won a Gold Glove, which I believe is the record to start a career. And 2022 was kind of, in retrospect now, like the last hurrah for him. He got third place in MVP. He had a 7.9 WAR, which is like pretty easily his career high. And the last 2 years since then, 2.2 WAR, 2.5 WAR, and then this year he has a 1.3 at this point in the season. He just is not the valuable player that he once was. And it is what it is. He's 34 years old. He's played a lot of baseball. But yeah, I think at this point, I mean, maybe someone trades for him at the deadline, or he gets moved in the off season. But I don't think the new team is expecting old Nolan Arenado. I think it's like, oh, let's shore up the defense a little bit. Let's get a veteran presence, maybe a guy who doesn't strike out too much. But I don't think he's really going to be a needle mover to a playoff team.
All right, and there you have it. So there are more players we could go into, we could name here, but those are the ones we wanted to talk about for today. We want to keep this thing moving as well. So let's roll into our next segment, which is Fan Corner. This is our segment where we get to, the three of us get to fan out a little bit. We're all passionate fans of our teams, and so while we love to, talk about MLB and the whole league, we also like a space where we can just be fans. So let's hit there now, and let's start in Boston with the Red Sox and Drew. What's up?
Yeah, so the Red Sox are in this tough stretch right now. Right after the All-Star break, they went to Chicago and played three against the Cubs, and then went to Philly, played three against the Phillies. They lost both those series, but they managed to salvage the final game of both of them, which kind of makes me feel. It's interesting in Red Sox world. A lot of fans are like, "Here they go again, another second half decline," and I'm kind of in the camp of like, well, these are as tough of teams as you're gonna play in Major League Baseball, and like I know the Phillies had kind of been stumbling before, but we faced Zach Wheeler and Christopher Sanchez back-to-back days and lost those games. So it's like, you know, I never really had the expectation that the Red Sox were World Series winning contenders, and the Cubs and the Phillies, I would put in that camp. And so I'm not going to panic about losing a couple series. I still feel pretty good about this team overall, especially in the big picture of the American League. But there have been some concerning reports lately, like that they probably aren't going to maybe swing for the fences at the trade deadline, maybe going to hold on to some pieces. It seems less likely that Jaron Duran gets traded when that seemed like a sure thing even like a month ago. So I don't know. Like I really hope that there's some surprise moves at the deadline and we really kind of we can say like, wow, the Red Sox are like they're really going for it, which is kind of how we felt in the offseason. We got Garrett Crochet, we got Alex Bregman. I would love to feel that throughout the whole year. Craig Breslow, ever since we traded Rafael Devers, has been adamant that we are going to be buyers at the trade deadline, even though he had no reason to be saying this stuff. So now he's tied his hands. He's got to do it. I mean, we are in a playoff spot right now. The schedule will get a lot easier coming up. We have the Dodgers this weekend. I know they are still a good team, but they have really been scuffling lately, and we avoid some of their better pitching. So I'm hopeful about that series. And the concern for me right now is the biggest concern is not doing enough at the trade deadline and kind of skirting the line between buying and selling and maybe getting someone like, I don't know, like a fourth starter who wasn't really on anyone's radar, and then like a backup catcher that the Padres was the Padres' second choice or something. And that's not going to be enough. It's what we've done the last few years. We haven't really like made that big move, either buying or selling. And I think the team now is worse for it. So I'd like to see them get bold. I'd like to see them get exciting. I don't know if they will. And then concern number two is that Marcelo Meyer exited the game yesterday with an injury. We don't really know how bad it is, but it seems like David Hamilton got called up. There's been no official move, but and if that's the case, I'm really worried that Ceddanne Rafaela is going to take over those innings at second base, and they'll shuffle the outfield. And Ceddanne Rafaela, in my opinion, and by some metrics, is the best defensive center fielder in baseball, and it just pains me to see him playing second base. It's just a total waste. I'd rather throw Jaron Duran there, even though he hasn't played it since he was drafted. I just don't like that at all. But I have a fear that they'll do that and keep kicking this logjam down the road and not make any big moves at the deadline. And we'll either sneak into the last playoff spot and get eliminated quick, or we'll be on the outside looking in once again.
All right, so that's the update from Red Sox land. How about in San Diego, Matt? What's going on over there?
Yeah, it's the same boat as always, man. We are good, we're not great. It our offense when we're playing the Marlins, it was one of their announcers who said it. We are by hitting, like by just getting hits in like the top 5 or like top 6 teams or something, which I was shocked to hear. And by runs, we're bottom 3. And so I was like, there's something wrong with the Padres offense right now in that we don't hit, like we don't slug. And we have a third base coach who loves to hold our runners. And we really limit our opportunities by the type of offense we're playing. I mean, you think a few years back, like Tatis was hitting nukes. And this year it just seems like the power isn't there. Like he'll hit sharp ground balls. He'll occasionally hit, like a good gap hit, but like he's just not hitting. The slugging from this team feels absent. And that's what I've been kind of, asking for is we need a good right-handed bat just to bring that up, but also like we just need someone who can come in and clean up. And I don't care about the average as long as that's why Sean Murphy made a lot of sense. He brought a lot of power from a position that doesn't typically have it, and even though the average isn't that high, the slugging is really good. And so I don't know, it's an interesting thing because we make every game look really competitive, and it's some of the most frustrating baseball to watch though is just having runners on first and second almost every inning and just stranding them there. And it's yeah, I don't know. I think this trade deadline is going to tell us a lot about the team. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's like we are another team that's kind of in this limbo of like we could be sellers, we could be buyers, and we think we'll be buyers just because of our positioning in our division, and we have a playoff spot as well. But at the same time, they're talking about trading Dylan Cease right now. He's in trade talks everywhere. They're talking about potentially Luis Ariz. They're talking about, and it's like there can be addition by subtraction for sure, but it's like Dylan Cease was supposed to be our ace this season. Like, so, okay, we might be trading our ace. Luis Ariz was supposed to be like our clear-cut leadoff guy, 3 in a row batting titles. So, okay, we're getting rid of that. And it's like, we can bring in good players, but it's like, I'm curious to see because the Padres, our issue is our depth, our back of the lineup. I mean, I've watched Trenton Brooks get brought in the 9th inning, 2 games in a row, to pinch hit for our catchers. And he currently has a 150 batting average and has like done nothing as a major leaguer. And it's just like, is that the best we have coming off our bench? Like, that's the best we have? That's crazy to me. And so if we trade some of these guys who, even if they're a little, underperforming, Luis Ariz, I think is like a 290 average this year, or like 288. To me, it's like that still feels like it's taking away unless we're somehow able to get 2 bats to replace them. Like, we need to extend our lineup. But we'll see. I mean, we got a week. Moves have started to be made. Diamondbacks look like they're going to be sellers, which I am very grateful for, because I just think it means we're more likely to be active in the buying market. Not necessarily for their players, but it just means that the market will be more active, which I want. So, yeah, we'll see.
I will say the Padres, from what I've heard, and this is no surprise to anyone, AJ Preller has been the most like aggressive, asking around type of guy. So I
You'll see my
expect
dinger
them
and
to.
singers.
Yeah. I expect them to make a lot of moves. Whether you'll be happy with them or not, we'll
Yeah,
see. But
yeah.
they'll be active.
There's going to be change.
Change is going to come for San Diego. Okay, well, let's talk about the Angels for a brief minute. It was a fun week. We had a good times. We won a series in Philadelphia. That was pretty cool. And then we went over to New York and played the Mets. And, well, they got swept by the Mets, which is correct, right?
Sure.
The Angels did lead in the first 2 of those games, though, and then blew it a little late. The first game, they blew it very late. But they did get swept either way. So Um, where the Angels are at right now, they are 5 games back of the third wild card spot, firmly in selling territory with good pieces to sell. That is what I will say about that. I've made it very clear what I want them to do, and my reason for wanting them to do it, though, has changed over the course of the season. And it remained that reason after watching them against the Phillies and against the Mets. That reasoning remains the same. Neto's real. Shanwell gets on base. Mike Trout is still in the lineup, and it's almost August, and that's crazy. That's awesome. I love that. And if we can keep Mike Trout doing this for the next, few seasons, that's good. Soriano, while shaky later in his starts, does look good. And he looks like he could be an ace. So these things that started the season well, these players that started the season well, are continuing to play well and show that they're maybe the real deal. And so it's time to sell because you need to supplement them over the course of the next 2 years with some other, with as much talent who is as close to the major leagues as possible. And so that is what I'll say about that. Some positive news will come soon, though. Any day now, Mike Trout is going to join Giancarlo Stanton as the only 2 active players with 400 home runs. And he will also soon become I believe, the 9th active player with 1,000 RBIs here shortly as well. So that will happen soon. We will celebrate that here. Both of those we will. But for now, I think, the time has come. You know what you are right here at the deadline, and it's time to get active in getting some valuable pieces, some pieces that may be of some value out of here. One thing I will say is that I don't think Reed Detmer should be on that list. I think they should keep him, and I think they should keep him in the bullpen role that he's in right now. One of the craziest developments of the season is that he has become a really good high leverage reliever, and that is not something you give away, especially with as many years of control as he still has as of this year. So I do not think this is the deadline to offload him. Unless someone offers you something crazy, which I don't think is going to happen. And so I think for now, some fans would like him to be included in that sell-off. I do not want that because he does represent something very valuable for us. And I'd like him to stay in that role with the Angels in future seasons and try to keep that going.
Yeah, dude, if he's legit as a reliever, like if he's real, him and Ben Joyce, when Ben Joyce comes back healthy, would be a crazy 1-2 punch at the end of the bullpen.
So Dallas, let me ask you, who do you kind of hope that the Angels trade? Because some of the guys I've seen as they just tossed out, mentioned Taylor Ward, Yusei Kikuchi. Both of them, Ward has 1 more year after this one, Kikuchi has 2 more after this one. Do you want the competitive window to be as early as next year, or are you kind of what are you thinking?
Yeah, I would like to see them be more competitive next year. I think it's possible, and I think that with the right off season too, it all combines. But with the right off season too, I think that if these players can repeat and some even make more improvements, like some of the very young players can make improvements. You have Kyron Paris still, who hasn't established himself fully yet as to what he can be, but he's shown positive upside. And you have Christian Moore, who is going to play in the majors again this year when he's healthy again. And so we'll see him again and see what he's got. But I think you have exciting pieces waiting too. So, I'd like to see that next year happen. Yes. And so, yes, Ward and Kikuchi would be on that list. Jansen would obviously be on that list for me. That would be just, getting him to somebody who is a contender this year and wants to buy him. Probably not for much. And the only cusp guy still for me, and this wasn't the case a month ago or 2, maybe a month and a half ago, is Joe Adele. That's because if he can be 30 bombs, he's going to hit 30 bombs this year probably. And so if he can be that for another 3-4 years, they need to keep him. And so that's the only cusp guy for me, but that would be about the run of my list, I think. Yeah.
All right. I'm interested to see what happens, as
Yeah,
always.
we'll see. So let's move to our next segment, which is our locked in segment, where we make predictions for the next week of baseball play. So first we'll talk about the predictions from last show. So we'll start with Drew, and his prediction from last show was that the first trade dominoes will start to fall and that the Mariners will be involved. We talked about it at the top of the show. That's going to be a fat. Turn that M for Mariners upside down and turn it into a W. Because that's what that prediction turned into like I said, a half hour before we started. So congrats on the W last week. And what do you have on the table to try to keep it going for next week?
Yeah, I initially had something in here, trade deadline related, but I decided there's going to be trades. Of course there are. I don't know what they're going to be. I'm not going to get 2 for 2. So I went with the Red Sox-Dodgers series this weekend. And Saturday, we're getting a really fun matchup. We're getting Garrett Crochet versus Clayton Kershaw, which will be fun to watch. And my prediction, and I'm not basing this on anything except for I hope it happens, is that Roman Anthony will hit a home run off of Clayton Kershaw. Roman Anthony has been hitting very well. He's been striking out a lot. It's hard, Major League Baseball, but when he does hit the ball, he's hitting it hard. It hasn't resulted in a ton of home runs yet, but I expect that to change a little bit. And I think Kershaw is the type of lefty. Yes, he's crafty. Yes, he has done a lot of things, but he doesn't strike out a lot of guys anymore. And I think Roman Anthony can do some damage against him. So I'm hoping to see a Roman Anthony home run off of Clayton Kershaw.
All right. So let's move to Matt. And last week's prediction was that the Padres would trade for Jarren Duran instead of some of the players that maybe Matt would rather have. Like Luis Robert Jr. or Sean Murphy. So Padres haven't made that splash trade yet, and it wasn't for Duran yet, but that, hey, this still has the possibility to happen. I picked you second today because I really wanted to give it that extra minute and a half because you never know.
You never know.
But what do you have for this week for your prediction for this week?
Yeah, for this week, I just feel like it is my duty. It is my sworn duty at this point. Drew predicted like a single week of trades, got it exactly on the head. Ridiculous. I can't stop predicting some form of a trade market until I get one. I decided this is not too broad that it's cheesy, but it's so likely to happen, especially given this is the week, everybody. This is the week for the trade deadline. I've been unsure a few times. I'm not this time. One of the Padres, Red Sox, or Angels is going to make a notable trade this week. Book it
I
here.
wish you said and. I bet if you said and, it would still be true.
It might.
Fine. You want me to go bold? Make it and. One of the Padres, Red Sox, and Angels are all going to make a notable trade. Maybe a 3-team trade with each other. Who's to say?
That'd be awesome.
That'd be
Hey, and speaking of trades, next week we will be going live. Matt and I, we went live for the NFL draft for the first round. It was a lot of fun. So we're going to try it again for the trade deadline. Probably, we haven't figured out the exact time, probably about an hour before the deadline. So West Coast time, that's around 2 o'clock.
We'll post an update on the Instagram to kind of let you know when we've settled the time.
Yep. And so, yeah, we'll be going live on our YouTube channel, reacting. We'll talk about stuff that already happened. Any trades that happened before we go live, we'll talk about them. And then we'll live react to any trades that go down in the last hour. Usually some of the most juicy ones go down just in that even the last like 15 minutes. So, and we'll stay on a little bit after because those last deals always trickle in. But yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be super fun. We love going live as much as we can. And so any opportunity we get to have something happening where we'll always have content flowing in to be able to talk about, we want to hit that live button. So join us back here after you check our Instagram for some more details, more specific details, but it'll be right here on our YouTube channel on Thursday. of the MLB trade deadline, and we'll have a little special that we do where we talk about that. So let us end this week's show though with our favorite segment, our dingers and stingers. So one good thing and one bad thing from the world of sports from each of you. Let's start with the bad, and let's start with Matt.
Yeah, so my stinger this week was that the Padres. I'm on Padres Twitter. I follow the rumor mill accounts. I followed Passan. The Padres have literally been linked to like every name that anyone mentions. Any team is like, yeah, we've been taking calls on this player. First team I see, Padres are one of those teams, and it's frustrating because like I understand like you wanna see what's out there, you want to see the market, you don't want to overpay, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot, you don't. There's all these things you want to be careful, but I'm like, our team has been like scraping and crawling our way to this point. Like we are in such a muddy stretch right now. We just got beat by the Cardinals, and our offense has just looked abysmal. And like the holes on this team have been clear for a while. And for a GM who's like so used to like making trades, not necessarily at the deadline, but whenever he so pleases, it's like he's really taking his sweet time with this stuff. So it's just frustrating. Why, like we are linked to every free agent, and yet it seems like nothing is happening. And that's been the case literally all season. So we were linked to the Rafael Devers trade. He was in on that, and we just haven't done anything yet. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, hard times to be, the active GM and like, maybe too active for his own good at times, for sure. But
he's given himself a bit of a reputation, so
yeah,
that's his fault.
100%. So let's move to Drew and your stinger for the week. What do you have for us?
Yeah, my stinger is also trade deadline related. Jeff Passan came out with an article, I don't remember which day, someday in the last week, where he kind of went team by team and talked about what their stance is going into the deadline, this and that. And some of it is just very obvious things that everyone's been saying, but we got to the Red Sox, and not to make dingers and stingers another episode of Fan Corner, but and he was basically like, I don't expect them to do that much. I expect them basically to stand pat. And I really just would hate for that to happen. I already talked about this a little bit, but something that I believe it was the Dodgers GM said was when the Dodgers got all those pitchers and all these players in the offseason, one of the quotes was, well, we don't want to have to get as many guys at the trade deadline because at the trade deadline you have to pay like 3 times as much as these guys are worth because that's how it works. Now, we can laugh at the Dodgers because they definitely do have to make moves at the deadline now still, but I worry that the Red Sox operate under those same principles and are going to stick to their guns and stick to what the computer tells them and be like, well, we didn't really see the value that lined up for us. I want Craig Breslow to think with his heart and to be like, you know what? This team needs a starting pitcher. We're gonna make a big move for, I don't know, Edward Cabrera. He's not really that big of a name, but like a Zach Gallen or someone who, we've seen linked and maybe is going to cost a lot. Even Dylan Cease, I've seen, like his name is circled around, and I know he's not having a great year, but like just someone with a track record that we can get into the pitching lab and see what we can do. I just want him to make a move, and I would even love a big surprise move that we didn't see coming. I know the Devers trade was kind of out of the blue. Maybe there's a name out there who hasn't really been linked in the rumors that we see. I mean, Joe Ryan, that would be awesome if Joe Ryan got traded. It would probably cost a
That'd be
haul,
crazy.
and I would love it. So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of, I've been getting some cold water thrown on my hopes for the trade deadline, and it makes sense. Knowing a guy like AJ Preller's out there, a guy like Jerry DePoto's out there, they're going to make the deals. They're going to do what it takes. I don't know if Craig Breslow quite is in that camp, and so that worries me.
Alrighty. So let's end with the good, though, and let's bounce back to Matt for his dinger for the week. What you got?
Yeah, I won't go too far into this, but my dinger, similar to my stinger, it's also exciting, when you are linked to the big names in free agency or, trade deadline. Um, we've known AJ Preller is a dude who makes moves. That's not a shock to anybody. I like the fact that we have a GM who actively tries to make a team better, who actively tries to make his roster better. I'd rather that than be the team that never does anything and just lets players kind of come and go as their, service time runs out. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a double-edged blade here, being attached to AJ Preller right now. So.
All right. Well, there you go. A nuanced look at the Padres trade deadline, for sure, coming from Matt there. And then we'll end with Drew's dinger for the week. What do you have for us?
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite just guys to play Major League Baseball, Rich Hill. I believe he's 45 years old. Got called up to the Royals Major League squad, pitched for them. That made
Did
it
well,
his.
right?
I think he held his own against the Cubs.
Yeah.
That marked his 14th Major League team that he's played for, which ties Edwin Jackson for the record. I think that's awesome, especially for a guy who was like almost out of baseball at one point. And to have this longevity, and he's the slow throwing lefty. That's the type of guy that can pitch forever. I hope maybe the Royals trade him, or maybe he gets one more year next year or something. I want him to get a 15th team. He's played on the Red Sox for like 4 different stints during his career. So I don't need him to go to the Red Sox. I'd like him to mark off a team he's never played for before. I would love that, but regardless, good for him for still playing. I mean, he was like going to be in Red Sox radio broadcasts earlier this year, and then he's like, I'm actually just going to keep pitching. So I think that's awesome. In this world of all the arms being the youngest guys who can throw over 100 miles per hour, I like seeing 45-year-old Rich Hill with his 79-mile-an-hour fastball go out there and still get outs on a major league field. So good for him.
Yeah, and you look, we talked about it at the top of the show. Let's bring it all the way back around. Justin Verlander, he's just chasing that Rich Hill lifestyle. He's just wanting to be him. He's got pictures of Rich Hill on his wall. I want to be you. He wants to play
it's on the back of his locker.
Rich Hill says catch up. All right, so that'll do it for our MLB show this week. Lots of fun, as always. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video, sharing it around. We love to spread the love. We appreciate the love and support. Hit us in the comments with players that you might think are cooked that we didn't mention. We'd love to hear that. And then, tune in to this YouTube channel next week for our trade deadline special.
Yes,
it's going to be fun. But until then, we will see you then, and take care. Bye.
Bye.